Aloha and welcome everyone. My name is Shannon Flynn and I am the Behavioral Health Supervisor for Kamehameha Schools Preschools, Nakula Kamali'i. And I am here today to present on week 6 of our ʻOhana Talk Story sessions. Today's topic is transitions during turbulent times. So with that being stated, let me start our slideshow and we will get started. These sessions, just so you know, occur live. We will have a different change in schedule for the summer, and so we will let everybody know about that. These sessions you can go back and view on our website and also through YouTube. If you search Nakula Kamali'i, they are all recorded and held in there, so please check those out. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen and we will get started for today. Mahalo for joining us. So again, today's session is transitions in turbulent times. So our goals for today are to talk about transitions and what transitions are and why transitions and change are so difficult for all of us. We're going to talk about all the transitions that are occurring, the changes and challenges that we'll also be facing in the days ahead. And you're going to get to learn strategies to help you, your keiki, and your ʻOhana navigate through all the changes and through everything occurring with this pandemic right now. So definition of transition, we're going to start here with just talking about what transitions are and about change. And so transition is the process or period of changing from one state or condition to another. It is a movement, development, or evolution from one form, stage, or style to another. It's also in terms of science and physics, transition is an abrupt change in energy state or level as of an atomic nucleus or a molecule, usually accompanied by loss or gain of a simple quantum of energy. So I think that's really interesting to think about this theory of transition. It really is that change in energy, even when you think about it from a scientific standpoint. So just thought that was interesting to share about. Transition really means change. It means change is occurring. Change is inevitable and it's hard, but it's also a part of life. Ever since a young age, we all experience changes, and really the only constant throughout life is change. And so that's difficult and hard. And we are living in these unprecedented times right now. That's a phrase I just keep hearing over and over again. But really the word unprecedented, it stands out from other words like atypical or unique, because unprecedented really speaks to specific events. Unprecedented in itself means a change or transition that we've never gone through before. And so I think that term in itself just shows the significance of what we're going through right now and how big it is with change and transitions. So I'm going to start off with sharing this first video clip with you guys called Impermanence and Change, and it's from Headspace. Headspace is a wonderful app, and they also have a website and lots of short videos on YouTube regarding mindfulness and meditation and being present. And so this is just a really good clip that I think they do a great job in what change is and explaining that. And so I apologize, I'm going to have to click back and forth because my links aren't really working so well straight from the PowerPoint, but just bear with me for a sec. And this video again is Impermanence and Change from Headspace.
One reason we struggle so much in our mind, and very often in our lives, is that we're resistant to change. We may believe that we really like change, that we don't like things when they're always the same. But the mind tends to hold on. It likes security. It likes certainty. So, whenever something is changing, it's somewhat threatening to the mind, and hence a struggle. But of course, everything is changing, all of the time, in our mind, in our body, all around us. There's nothing that stays the same. And of course, time itself is a constantly shifting sea, one moment after the next. Always different, never the same. And any idea that we might have of a future moment, that's just an idea. Nothing more than that. If we can get comfortable with this idea of change, of nothing staying the same, then the mind can be at ease. We're no longer trying so hard to cling on to that sense of stability and security. Instead, the mind is free. It's in understanding this idea of change that we experience true freedom of mind.
Okay, so just think that that's a great kind of overview of change, of what change is, of why it's so hard and what we struggle with, especially as we're going through lots of changes and transition right now. That change is something that constantly comes and goes, that it is like those waves, especially time. And it's difficult and hard, but the most that we can, do to bear with it and to roll with those waves and to let go of the, wanting things to stay the same, and be flexible and adapt, the better it's going to help us to be successful in the process. So next I want to talk about all the transitions and changes occurring right now. So, over the past few months, we've all experienced so many transitions and changes. From this distance learning process of, no schools being in person right now, everything being in distance learning mode. For those of you working from home or maybe not even working right now, that's a big change. Everyone being home at the same time, that's a big change. Then we're going through the normal things this time of year of it being the end of school year and summer is starting. Things are going to open back up, but things with opening back up are looking different too. Even though we've seen different stores and different places and communities start to open, there's still a new way of doing things that we're also going to talk about. And so that's a change and transition. It's not like what we're used to. I think most of us probably in our heads think that the store is going to be back open and it's going to be like it used to be. Whereas really, there's so many things different. We're all wearing face masks. We have to stay 6 feet apart. Only so many people are allowed in places. That's a huge change in transition. And then the transitions ahead with, school's going to open back up at some point, but things may be different from that. Maybe different from what they were before. And so that's going to be a big change. There'll be change to some programs and the way that things are done. And so that's going to be a difference. So I'd encourage you guys to really think about what other transitions and changes are you facing right now. What are those things on your plate that are different, that you're going through right now that are changes and transitions, but then also what changes and transitions are ahead. So change, because it's leading you to a new beginning. I think this quote is great because, change is hard, it's difficult, and we don't always see it as a positive thing. But change really can be a positive thing. It does mean new beginnings and new things. And I think it relates a lot to right now and how we're in springtime and, things is new life and that things are starting to open back up again. And so just trying to find the positives in all things out there can really help us get through this. So next I want to talk about some other tips to help with transition, some tips and things to help us get through the changes and the times that we're going through. And this video I'm going to show you with this is a guy who talks about how change and transitions were always hard for him as a kid and how even now as an adult, that's difficult for him. But he shares 3 great tips about changes and transitions. So that is this next.
Today I want to talk to you about how we can handle change. Now, when I was younger, I hated the idea of change. I hated the idea of being able to not be able to control my life. And one thing my mom used to always say to me is, Charles, the only thing consistent in life is change. And I hated this. I hated this to no end because when she used to say this, I instantly felt powerless, hopeless, unable to control anything. And the problem is, as I've gotten older, that has not changed. I still feel pretty uncomfortable with change. And I think many of us deal with that situation where we feel uncomfortable. We hate it because in a lot of ways with change comes fear. It comes the feeling of fear. It comes the feeling of being powerless. It comes the feeling of not having control. And so today I want to offer you guys 3 tips that may help you deal with change. Let's go. So tip number 1 is be flexible and learn to embrace change. A lot of times when we first encounter change, a lot of times when we first have to deal with change, our immediate reaction is to put up a defense, is to protect ourselves and keep us as far away from change as possible. But in order for us to be happy in life, in order for us to be able to fully accept life and all of its changes, we must learn to embrace change and learn to be flexible with change. Tip number 2 is face your fears. Now, we all have fears when it comes to change. For me, when I was a kid, moving to a new school always brought that fear. The fear of having to meet new people, of having to deal with new teachers, and maybe having a difficult time readjusting to a new area when I was a child. As an adult, I have different fears when it comes to change. But we all have fears in general when it comes to change. There's certain things about the change itself that makes us afraid. But if we can learn to embrace those fears and face them, we can become successful. We can learn to be happy even despite the fears themselves. So one thing I want to say is a great way to face your fears is by writing down these fears, by putting them on paper, by taking ourselves out of the situation and putting them on paper and looking at it objectively. We can stop dwelling on it and being stuck on the fears and learn to let them go. The final tip I want to leave with you guys is to focus on the things that you can control. Life will throw you a lot of different curveballs. It will go a lot of different directions we may not want life to go. It may go right when we want it to go left. It may take a U-turn when we want life to go straight. Change is inevitable. It's unstoppable. So although we may not control the world around us, the weather, other people, or situations as a whole, what we can control, the one thing we can control is our attitude and our actions. If you find yourself in a situation where you're afraid and you know that change is inevitable, learn to control yourself. Like I said earlier, some of the most successful people in life are able to be flexible, are able to face their fears and control not the world around them, themselves. They're able to redirect their energies, their talents, their abilities in ways that allow them to not necessarily get rid of change, but to get a leg up on change. All right, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Until next time, peace.
Okay, so I think he just does a great job of, relating to why change is difficult as a child, but also as an adult, and how change is hard. And I think he gives a lot of great tips on change and transitions and how to deal with those. So the first, again, was to be flexible and embrace change. Really try to adapt and adjust to what's going on. Know that change is going to occur and be able to grasp and embrace that will really help. Face your fears, confront what's occurring. And focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. Your actions and your attitudes are a huge part of this. I shared in previous sessions how our thoughts and feelings and behaviors all relate to each other. And so if we can change our thoughts, it's going to help us to feel better and help us to make different choices and behaviors and actions. And so it'll change our whole attitude and perspective if we can change those things. So to really try to focus on what we can control. I love this clip on the right, and it's very specific for COVID-19 and the season we're going through, to really focus on the things that I can control rather than the things I can't control. So that inner circle of, your own attitude, how you're going to follow the health recommendations out there, social distancing, your kindness and grace, and how you're going to treat others, turning off the news and limiting social media, finding fun things to do at home. All of those are things that you can control, and so we want to try to focus on those things. The things that we can't control are the things that we want to let go of. So, the amount of toilet paper at the store or the amount of things that are running out of the store, we can't control that. How long this will last and how others react, other people's motives and how they're going to follow social distancing and their actions and predicting what will happen. We can't control any of that, and so it doesn't help us to focus on that. Those are really the things that we want to let go of. So some more tips to help navigate through the transitions. Accept that things are going to be different. Things are different right now, and things are going to be different moving forward. A new normal is emerging. We kind of tend to think in our heads that things are just going to go back to the normal as the way they were before, where really it's not. Really, probably masks are going to be around for a while, and really the distancing from others is going to have to stay in place with that 6 feet occurring. And so, things are going to be different, and they might be different for a long time. And there might be things that might not ever go back to how they were before. I was talking with a friend the other day just about how before 9/11 happened, we would always go at the airport to the gate to pick somebody up. You'd greet your loved ones or friends when they came in town by going to the gate, and how, then 9/11 happened, and now you can't go to the gate to pick someone up. You can't go through the airport if you're not checking in and flying somewhere. And so that's one of the things that changed after that event. And so there's going to be things after this that are going to change long-term wise also. And it's hard at this point to really know what those things are going to be. But just again, to be flexible and adjust and adapt to those changes, and those things are going to help us to embrace what's occurring easier. Stay grounded and connected, really stay in tune with yourself and what's occurring. Stay connected and build Polina with others. That's going to help through this process. That's going to help with your ʻOhana and your keiki to be connected to others. And try to find the positives in everything. There's a lot to be said for having a positive mindset and looking for the positives, that the glass is half full, not half empty, is really helpful and beneficial for our mind, our body, our soul. That helps us to get through tough times, to really see and look for the positives in all that we can do. So next, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about transitions and changes for keiki. So transitions are often a trigger for keiki's behaviors, whether it's a transition, a life transition occurring, or whether it's like a transition from one activity to the next. It often causes keiki's behaviors to escalate. And so we just want to be mindful of that and recognize that, that's a normal response from our keiki to see some behaviors during transitions and changes, Changes require more energy, and we're creatures of habit, especially our young keiki. They're used to their routines and their ways of doing things and things being the same. And so it takes a lot of energy and effort to shift things. The good thing to know is that, we are resilient creatures. We are able to change and adapt. And so that's exciting and a good thing, and especially our preschoolers. This is the time of so much growth and development, but they bounce back really quickly from things. Just as adults handle transition and change differently, so do our keiki. Each one of us responds differently to changes and transitions, and so do our keiki. And so, just being mindful of that some might not be having a hard time right now, and others may be having a hard time right now. Try to figure out what's behind your keiki's resistance to transition, as this can help to manage the problem, really getting to the root of the behavior that's occurring. So, whether maybe they're struggling with separating from you because they've been around you for a long period of time now and they're not used to having to say goodbye to you again. Or whether that transition from one activity to the next, maybe it's that they don't want to stop playing with their favorite toy. Maybe it's that they don't want somebody else taking that toy. Or maybe they're hungry or tired, really trying to get to the bottom of what's occurring around that behavior can then really help to provide that support to your keiki and help address the behavior and figure out how to move forward with things. And keiki are very resilient. Kids just have a natural way of bouncing back and being resilient. So this next clip I'm going to show you, it is called Life, and it's actually, there's no words in it. It is just a short film about life, and I think it's a great depiction of how our keiki are really resilient and bounce back, and how they're going to be able to do that through this process with our support and encouragement along the way. Okay, so just think that's such a great visual and depiction of just how keiki really are so resilient and can be so creative, and just how they're going to bounce back from all this, with our support and help through this. And so just think that's a great, cute clip that really depicts their ability to be resilient. So some general tools and tips to help with keiki transitions. Create routines. Having routines at home, having a set schedule and structure, that can really help our keiki. So some tips around that: try to, have some of your main routines the same. So bedtime and bedtime routines, meal times, having some exercise time and break times, that can be really helpful. Visual cues can be really helpful with that, and visual cues can be really helpful with transitioning from one thing to the next also. Preview and count down. We really want to give warnings to set our keiki up for success. Prepare them for what's happening next, for what's ahead. Give warnings and countdowns for, in 10 minutes, we're going to leave to go to wherever you're going. In 5 minutes, we're going to leave. In 1 minute, we're going to leave. And so, let them know what that means. In 1 minute, we're going to have to put away those toys and it's going to be time to clean up. Just letting them know what's happening ahead, or even preparing them ahead of time for, school starting back or going to an activity that they haven't done in a while. We really want to process with them and talk to them about it and inform them of it, and then help them with those transitions and those changes occurring. Give it a soundtrack. So, songs are awesome. Using like the cleanup song or using other songs to transition and change from one thing to the next is really helpful and beneficial for preschoolers. Also, there's so many great songs out there about COVID-19 and coronavirus and things being different. That can help with the big general sense of transitions and changes right now. So check some of those out, because that can be fun. Get their attention. We really want to, make sure keiki are listening and paying attention when you're telling them things and giving them instructions, and when you're giving them those warnings and countdowns. We really want to make sure that they're really grasping what's being said to them, because if not, they're not going to know what's occurring. They're not going to be able to respond and do what we want them to do. So we really want to get their attention. Games can also be fun, making it a challenge or a game to, like, let's see how fast we can clean up this whole room, or, let's see how quick we can do this. Those things can also be helpful. Having tangible items to transition from one thing to the next can also help a lot of keiki. And praise them, when they're having good transitions, and praise the behaviors that you want to see. There's so much to be said for really focusing on the positives in general, but focusing on the positives when it comes to behavior is so important for our keiki, and that lets them know that, you really liked what they were doing, and, that they made that good choice, and that then helps to click in their brain for next time they want to make that good choice and they want to please you. And so what are other things that are helpful for you, or your ʻOhana at home, to help keiki with transitions? And really try to think about those things and how you can try to implement those more at home to help support your keiki. Next, I want to share with you guys a social story for kids about change. And what I love about this is it's a great way of explaining to our young keiki about what change is and when change happens.
Change looks and feels different.
It also talks about some of the specific things
the weather changes,
occurring in society.
The seasons change. Even people change too. Caterpillars change into butterflies. Tadpoles change into frogs. And seeds change into flowers. When something changes, it can look different. These hats are different. These ice cream cones are different. These cups are different too. When something changes, it can feel different too. There is a new sickness that is making people sick. Schools are closed so that we can stay home and be safe. There is going to be a change in how I learn. I am going to learn in a different way. I will learn at home. Sometimes I will learn from my teacher on the computer. Other times I will learn at home with my family. I will do my work so that I can show my teacher that I am learning. My family and teacher want me to stay safe, healthy, and happy. I will be safe by staying at home. I can stay healthy by washing my hands. I can stay healthy by keeping my hands away from my eyes, nose, and mouth. I will go back to school when it is safe. I am learning in a different way, and that is okay.
Okay, so just a great social story on changes and really explaining to kids what changes are and how they occur, and also the changes that we're dealing with right now in current society and through this pandemic. So other tips to help Keiki during times of transitions and changes. Practice your own self-care. You know, we really need to be taking care of ourselves so we can help and take care of others. It goes back to the airplane analogy of putting on your own mask first so that you can take care of anyone else. You know, if you're not taking care of you, it's going to be hard to take care of your Keiki and your ʻOhana. So really making sure that you're caring for yourself and having some time for you and filling your own cup is really important to then help your Keiki through these times. Your Keiki needs you and their routines to be as stable and consistent as possible. You know, everything else out in the world might be crazy and ever changing and transitioning. However, you know, the things that you can control with their routines and their structure and their schedule at home, you know, trying to make those things as consistent as possible is really helpful for them. Be planful and mindful, you know, plan ahead on things, plan ahead of how you can help them to be successful in the transitions and changes, and be mindful of what's occurring, where their social emotional level is and what they're able to handle and manage at this time. Stay connected and provide support. You know, we want to stay connected with our Keiki and provide the support that they need, staying connected with others too. You know, those are really helpful during this time. And be positive and hopeful. There's so much to be said with just having that positive mindset and looking for the positives, looking for the hope, the messages of hope and the things occurring can really help us during difficult times and during this pandemic. So I want to leave you guys today with this last video of a message of hope. Just looking for those positives, even though there are so many changes. And this picture on the right is from a house I pass when I run a lot, and they put hope up on one of their beams on their home. And I just think it's a great picture and a great view of just really looking for those messages of hope, looking for the positives and all that's occurring, because that's going to help us to feel better. It's going to help our ʻOhana to feel better and our Keiki to feel better, and it's going to help us to get through this a lot easier. So let me pull up our video. Again, it's called A Message of Hope.
It's interesting that the things we cherish most are the same things we walk right by. They become so intertwined in the status quo that ultimately it becomes impossible to tell them apart from our day-to-day. That is, impossible until things change. Because as it turns out, that thing we call life, it has a say. There's a saying, you never really know what you have until it's gone. And sometimes it takes the most abrasive of reminders, the harshest of times, to help us recapture that perspective, to lift us up and show us what we had previously failed to see. And while our darkest moments test our strength, they push our boundaries, even transform our reality, they can also be the bridge that leads us to exactly where we need to be. They remind us sometimes it's not about how we spend our time, but who we spend it with. That quiet brings clarity, and the world can spin so fast that we forget to think about our place within it. It reminds us how humanity is bigger than the sum of its parts, and it takes just as much energy to build up as it does to tear down. It reminds us that no matter where we live, what we speak, or who we pray to, we're not so different after all. It reminds us that there is so much more good in this world than evil, so much more love than hate, and so much promise for tomorrow. Someday we'll look back on this moment with the lessons we've learned, the hardships we've faced, and we will be reminded of the miracle that is the human spirit, unwavering in its resolve, unbreakable at its foundation, stronger than we could ever comprehend. See, sometimes it's hard to look around and find a reason to be optimistic, to understand or comprehend why. But what we'll find is that if we look hard enough, immersed in the uncertainty, the disruption, and in some cases, the tragedy, there's something to be gained. A tiny candle flickering in the night that will eventually grow to light our way. Because that road to tomorrow is paved with hope. There are pages unwritten, stories untold, and a new chapter to begin.
Okay, so just want to leave us with that today, that even though there are, so many transitions and so many changes occurring, just to really look for the hope, look for the peace, look for the positives, because that can really help us throughout the way. So mahalo for your time today and for joining us. Wanted to let everybody know that we will be having a summer ʻOhana Talk Story sessions that will start the first week of June. So more information to come on that. Please feel free to reach out to myself. My email is up there, or to your keiki school counselor or kumu if you would like to talk story more or need support. We are here for you guys, so please reach out if you need anything. Also check us out on YouTube and our website, Nakula Kamali'i, and you can see and view our past recordings, also the slideshow, and links from each of these presentations are also on there. So check that out. Hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and mahalo for your time today. Aloha.